Welcome back to Cosmos World, where we explore the darkest corners of history and the most terrifying tales. Tonight, we unravel the sinister secret of room 237 at the infamous Blackwood Hotel, a place that has haunted the dreams of many. Buckle up, because this story is not for the faint of heart. Blackwood Hotel, built in the early 1900s, was once a beacon of luxury and grandeur. But over the years, it has gained a notorious reputation. Guests began to report strange occurrences, and the hotel became infamous for its eerie atmosphere and unsettling events. Among all the rooms in this haunted hotel, room 237 stands out. It's said to be cursed. Numerous guests who stayed in this room either disappeared, went insane, or met tragic ends. The stories surrounding this room are chilling and mysterious. The first reported incident occurred in the 1930s. A young couple, the Johnsons, checked into room 237 for their honeymoon. They were found dead under mysterious circumstances. The room was locked from the inside, and their bodies showed signs of extreme fear and distress. Local legend has it that Elizabeth Blackwood, the original owner's wife, haunts the hotel. She was said to have been driven mad by her husband's infidelities and ultimately took her own life in room 237. Her ghost is often seen wandering the hallways, her eyes filled with sorrow and rage. Over the decades, countless paranormal investigators have tried to uncover the secrets of room 237. EVP recordings captured chilling whispers, shadowy figures were seen on thermal cameras, and sudden temperature drops were experienced. One investigator claimed to have felt an invisible force pushing him against the wall. What makes room 237 so sinister? Some believe it's the site of a gruesome murder, with the victim's spirit seeking vengeance. Others speculate that the room is a portal to another dimension, allowing malevolent entities to cross over. Skeptics argue it's all a series of unfortunate coincidences fueled by the power of suggestion. The most recent incident occurred in 2010, when aspiring writer Sarah Collins checked into room 237. She planned to document the hotel's haunted history. Sarah was never seen again. Her belongings were found neatly arranged in the room, but there was no sign of a struggle or her departure. The case remains unsolved. During renovations in 2015, a hidden passage was discovered behind a wardrobe in room 237. This passage led to a network of tunnels beneath the hotel, believed to have been used for smuggling during Prohibition. Could these tunnels hold the key to the disappearances? To this day, room 237 continues to captivate and terrify. Visitors report seeing shadowy figures, hearing disembodied voices, and experiencing an overwhelming sense of dread. Urban legends about the room abound, and it has become a hotspot for thrill seekers and paranormal enthusiasts. The Blackwood Hotel and room 237 remain shrouded in mystery and fear. We uncover the horrifying secrets of the Crescent Hills Asylum, a place that has been long forgotten but continues to haunt those who dare to explore its dark corridors. Prepare yourself for a journey into madness and the unknown. Crescent Hills Asylum was established in the early 1900s, originally intended to be a sanctuary for the mentally ill. However, it quickly gained a notorious reputation for its brutal treatments and inhumane conditions. Patients were subjected to horrific experiments and unspeakable torment, many of whom were never seen again. The asylum was abandoned in the 1960s, but its dark legacy continued. Local legends tell of ghostly apparitions, eerie screams echoing through the halls, and the lingering presence of those who suffered within its walls. Crescent Hills Asylum became a hotspot for urban explorers and paranormal investigators, each with their own spine-chilling experiences to share. In 2017, a group of urban explorers ventured into Crescent Hills Asylum, documenting their journey through the derelict building. What started as an adrenaline-fueled adventure quickly turned into a nightmare. They captured unexplained shadows, disembodied whispers, and sudden drops in temperature. One member claimed to have seen a figure in a hospital gown standing at the end of a corridor, only for it to vanish moments later. Intrigued by these reports, a team of paranormal investigators decided to spend a night in the asylum. Their findings were nothing short of terrifying. EMF detectors spiked erratically. Voices were captured on EVP recorders saying, "Help me," and "Get out." And one investigator was even scratched by an unseen force. The evidence they gathered suggested that the spirits of Crescent Hills Asylum were far from at rest. As more people delved into the history of Crescent Hills, dark secrets began to surface. It was revealed that unethical experiments were conducted on patients, including electroshock therapy, lobotomies, and isolation treatments. Some patients were rumored to have been buried on the grounds, their souls trapped within the asylum forever. These revelations only added to the sinister aura surrounding Crescent Hills. Even today, Crescent Hills Asylum continues to captivate and terrify. Locals report seeing lights flickering in the windows at night, hearing distant cries for help, and witnessing ghostly apparitions wandering the grounds. Could the tortured souls of Crescent Hills still be seeking justice or peace? The Crescent Hills Asylum stands as a grim reminder of the past, a place where the lines between reality and the supernatural blur. What do you believe? Are the hauntings real, or are they just the echoes of a dark history? We venture into the cursed town of Centralia, a place that has become synonymous with hell on earth. Prepare yourself for a journey into a town consumed by fire and haunted by its dark past. Centralia, Pennsylvania was founded in the mid-1800s as a prosperous coal mining town. For years, it thrived, with its residents enjoying the fruits of the rich anthracite coal beneath their feet. But beneath the surface, a disaster was waiting to unfold. The town was a picture of Americana, with bustling streets, a thriving school system, and a close-knit community. Yet as the coal industry boomed, so did the risks. In 1962, an attempt to clean up the town's landfill by burning trash went horribly wrong. The fire ignited a seam of coal, and the flames began to spread through the underground tunnels. Despite efforts to extinguish it, the fire continued to burn, creating a hellish inferno beneath Centralia. Firefighters initially thought they could control the blaze, but they soon realized that the fire had spread deep into the coal veins, where it would be impossible to reach. As the fire raged beneath the town, poisonous gases and dangerous sinkholes began to emerge. Buildings crumbled, streets cracked open, and a thick, toxic smoke filled the air. Residents were forced to flee their homes, leaving behind a ghost town enveloped in a surreal and nightmarish landscape. The evacuation was heart-wrenching. Families who had lived in Centralia for generations were forced to leave their homes, their memories, and their lives behind. The town quickly became a ghost town, with only a few stubborn residents refusing to leave. By the 1980s, the government declared Centralia unsafe and began the process of evacuating the remaining residents. Homes were demolished and the town was officially condemned. Today, fewer than 10 people remain, clinging to their homes amidst the ongoing underground fire. Despite the danger, a handful of residents refused to abandon Centralia. These individuals held a fierce loyalty to their hometown, even as it transformed into a living nightmare. The abandonment of Centralia gave rise to numerous legends and tales of hauntings. Locals speak of ghostly miners seen wandering the streets, their faces twisted in agony. Some claim to hear eerie whispers and cries emanating from the smoke-filled cracks. The spirits of those who perished in the mines are said to haunt the town, seeking vengeance for their untimely deaths. Paranormal investigators have flocked to Centralia, capturing chilling evidence of ghostly activity. Many report feeling an overwhelming sense of dread and encountering inexplicable phenomena. One of the most mysterious aspects of Centralia is the St. Ignatius Church. Despite the inferno beneath the town, the church remains untouched by the fire. Many believe it is protected by divine intervention, standing as a symbol of hope and defiance against the overwhelming darkness. The church has become a pilgrimage site for those seeking solace, and a reminder that even in the darkest times there can be a glimmer of hope. Today, Centralia attracts urban explorers and thrill seekers, drawn by its eerie atmosphere and haunting legends. These adventurers capture chilling footage of the desolate streets, unexplained phenomena, and the haunting beauty of a town swallowed by fire. But many leave with more than just photos, reporting strange sensations and encounters that defy explanation. From phantom figures to sudden drops in temperature, the experiences of these modern-day explorers only add to the legend of Centralia. Some even claim that the town itself seems to come alive, reacting to their presence. The fire beneath Centralia shows no signs of stopping. Experts estimate that it could burn for another 250 years, consuming the remaining coal and continuing to shape the landscape. The town stands as a grim reminder of nature's power and the unintended consequences of human actions. The geological and chemical processes that keep the fire burning are a testament to the power of nature. Efforts to extinguish the fire have failed, leaving Centralia as a living experiment in the persistence of fire. For those who once called Centralia home, the memories of their town are bittersweet. They speak of the vibrant community that was lost and the trauma of watching their homes fall into ruin. Their stories add a deeply human element to the tragedy, highlighting the resilience and determination of those who lived through the nightmare. These personal stories reveal the deep emotional scars left by the fire. The pain of losing a home and a way of life is palpable, yet so is the strength of the human spirit. Centralia stands as a stark warning of the dangers lurking beneath our feet. It is a place where the line between reality and nightmare blurs and where the past continues to haunt the present. The cursed town of Centralia will forever remain a testament to the power of fire and the ghosts it leaves behind. Join us as we explore the spine-tingling events that plagued a family and baffled experts, leaving behind a legacy of fear and unanswered questions. In 1977, the Hodgson family, consisting of single mother Peggy Hodgson and her 4 children, Margaret, Janet, Johnny, and Billy, lived in a modest council house at 284 Green Street, Enfield, North London. Life was relatively ordinary until strange occurrences began to shatter their peace. Peggy Hodgson, a hard-working mother, did her best to raise her children in a stable environment. But what began as peculiar noises soon escalated into a nightmare that would consume their lives. It all started on the night of August 30th, 1977. Janet and her brother Johnny complained of their beds shaking violently. Peggy initially dismissed it as childish imagination, but things quickly took a darker turn. Loud knocking sounds echoed through the house, furniture moved on its own, and objects were thrown by unseen forces. The family was terrified. Peggy sought help from neighbors who witnessed some of the disturbances firsthand. They advised her to call the police, hoping for a rational explanation. When the police arrived, they too experienced inexplicable phenomena. One officer reported seeing a chair slide across the floor on its own. Despite their thorough investigation, they found no evidence of a break-in or prank. The events were beyond their expertise, leaving the Hodgsons with more questions than answers. The police were at a loss. They documented their observations, but admitted they had no means to deal with what seemed to be a paranormal occurrence. Word of the haunting spread like wildfire, drawing media attention from all over the world. Journalists flocked to Enfield, eager to capture the inexplicable events. The Hodgson home became a media circus, with cameras capturing some of the most compelling evidence of paranormal activity. Photos of levitating children, objects in midair, and bizarre physical phenomena were published, adding to the hysteria. The Hodgsons found themselves at the center of a storm, their lives under constant scrutiny. Enter Maurice Grosse and Guy Leon Playfair, investigators from the Society for Psychical Research. They were determined to uncover the truth behind the Enfield poltergeist. Over the course of their investigation, they documented more than 2,000 incidents, ranging from strange noises to physical attacks on the children. Grosse and Playfair were convinced that the events were genuine. They recorded voices seemingly coming from Janet, who spoke in a deep, guttural tone, claiming to be various entities, including the spirit of a man named Bill Wilkins who had died in the house years before. The voices coming from Janet were one of the most disturbing aspects of the case. Speaking in tones and accents far beyond her years, Janet described details of Bill Wilkins' life and death that she couldn't possibly have known. These recordings remain some of the most compelling evidence of the haunting. Experts analyzed the recordings, debating whether they were the result of trickery or genuine paranormal phenomena. The voices were unsettling and added a chilling layer to the Enfield poltergeist saga. As the haunting intensified, so did the physical attacks on the Hodgson children. Janet was often the target, experiencing bites, scratches, and even levitations. Witnesses, including family members and investigators, saw her being thrown across the room by unseen forces. The attacks were not only frightening, but also left physical evidence. Photographs showed bite marks and scratches that appeared spontaneously. These injuries couldn't be easily explained, adding to the terror and confusion. Desperate to end the torment, the Hodgsons sought help from various sources, including priests and mediums. Exorcisms and cleansing rituals were performed, but the haunting persisted. The family was left feeling helpless and abandoned. The exorcisms provided temporary relief, but the poltergeist activity would inevitably return. The persistence of the phenomena suggested a deeper, more sinister force at play. After nearly 2 years of relentless activity, the haunting began to wane. By 1979, the poltergeist phenomena had largely ceased, leaving the Hodgson family to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives. The experience left deep emotional scars, but also a story that would be told for generations. The Hodgsons struggled to move on, but the memories of the haunting remained vivid. For them, the Enfield poltergeist was more than just a story. It was a nightmare they lived through and survived. The Enfield poltergeist remains one of the most controversial and debated hauntings in history. Skeptics argue that the events were exaggerated or fabricated, pointing to inconsistencies and potential hoaxes. Believers, however, cite the overwhelming evidence and first-hand accounts as proof of a genuine paranormal occurrence. The truth may never be fully known, but the Enfield poltergeist continues to captivate and terrify. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, the story of the Hodgson family is a chilling reminder of the mysteries that still elude us. The Enfield poltergeist is a tale of fear, resilience, and the unknown. It challenges our understanding of reality and forces us to confront the possibility of things beyond our comprehension. What do you think? Are the hauntings real, Or are they simply the result of mass hysteria and trickery? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Cosmos World for more terrifying tales. Until next time, stay curious and keep the lights on. Welcome to Cosmos World, where we uncover the most terrifying and mysterious tales from the real world. Today we explore the haunting case of the Sodder children, who vanished without a trace on Christmas Eve, 1945. Join us as we unravel this chilling mystery that has baffled investigators and haunted a family for decades. The Sodder family, led by George and Jenny Sodder, lived a peaceful life in Fayetteville, West Virginia. With their 10 children, they were a close-knit family, well-liked in their community. But their lives were forever changed on the night of December 24th, 1945. Christmas Eve was supposed to be a night of joy and celebration. The Sodders had decorated their home and settled in for the night, unaware that a horrifying tragedy was about to unfold. In the early hours of Christmas morning, a fire broke out in the Sodder home. George, Jenny, and 4 of their children managed to escape, but 5 of their children, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, were trapped inside. George tried desperately to rescue them, but the fire was too intense. George broke a window, cutting himself in the process, and attempted to re-enter the burning house. He tried to use a ladder to reach the upstairs bedrooms, but the ladder was mysteriously missing. He even tried to pull his trucks up to the house to climb on them, but neither would start, despite having worked perfectly the day before. By the time the fire department arrived, the house had been reduced to ashes. The initial assumption was that the 5 children had perished in the fire, but as investigators sifted through the rubble, they found no trace of their remains. Fire investigators were puzzled. The fire, they concluded, had not burned hot enough to completely incinerate human remains. This raised a chilling question. What happened to the Sodder children? In the days following the fire, strange clues began to surface. A telephone repairman discovered that the phone line to the Sodder house had been cut, not burned. Neighbors reported seeing a car drive away from the Sodder home during the fire, and the family's ladder was found hidden in a nearby ditch. These clues suggested that the fire might have been set deliberately, and that the children might have been taken from the house before the blaze consumed it. Determined to find answers, George and Jenny Sodder put up a billboard along Route 16, displaying pictures of their missing children and offering a reward for information. The billboard became a local landmark and a symbol of their relentless search for the truth. The billboard kept the case in the public eye for decades, drawing attention to the mystery and prompting numerous tips and theories. In 1967, Jenny Sodder received a photograph in the mail with no return address. The photo appeared to show a man in his 20s bearing a striking resemblance to their missing son, Louis. On the back was a cryptic message: Louis Sodder, I love Brother Frankie, Ilil boys, A90 on 32 or 35. The photograph rekindled hope that the children might still be alive. The Sodders hired a private investigator to track down the sender, but he vanished without a trace. The mystery deepened, leaving the family with more questions than answers. Over the years, numerous theories have been proposed to explain the disappearance of the Sodder children. Some believe they were kidnapped by someone who harbored a grudge against George. Others speculate that the children were taken by an organized crime syndicate. Yet there is no conclusive evidence to support any of these theories. Each theory has its merits and its flaws, but none provide a definitive answer to the haunting question: what really happened to the Sodder children? George and Jenny Sodder never gave up hope of finding their children. They spent their lives investigating leads and following up on tips, always believing that their children were out there somewhere. The search took a toll on the family, but it also brought them closer together. They supported each other through the decades, united by their shared loss and their unyielding quest for the truth. The case of the Sodder children remains one of the most perplexing and haunting mysteries in American history. It has inspired books, documentaries, and countless discussions, ensuring that the story will not be forgotten. The legacy of the Sodder family is one of resilience, hope, and the enduring human spirit. Their story serves as a reminder of the mysteries that still elude us and the importance of never giving up on the search for answers. The disappearance of the Sodder children is a tale of tragedy and mystery, leaving us with more questions than answers. What do you think happened to the Sodder children? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Today we take you to Skinwalker Ranch, a place notorious for its paranormal activity and unexplained phenomena. Join us as we dive deep into the terrifying legend of Skinwalker Ranch, uncovering the dark secrets that lurk within its borders. Skinwalker Ranch, also known as Sherman Ranch, is located in northeastern Utah and spans approximately 512 acres. The land is steeped in history, with the Ute tribe believing it to be cursed by the Navajo. According to legend, the Navajo placed a curse on the Ute, invoking the malevolent skinwalkers, witches capable of transforming into animals and possessing supernatural powers. The skinwalkers are said to be able to take the form of various animals, including wolves, coyotes, and owls, and are known for their ability to manipulate the minds and bodies of their victims. For generations, the Ute tribe avoided this land, fearing the wrath of the skinwalkers. In 1994, the Gorman family, seeking a peaceful life away from the city, purchased Skinwalker Ranch. They were unaware of its dark history and the supernatural horrors that awaited them. At first, life on the ranch seemed idyllic, but it wasn't long before strange occurrences shattered their tranquility. From mysterious lights in the sky to bizarre animal mutilations, the Gormans soon realized they were not alone on their new property. The Gormans' first encounter with the paranormal came in the form of a massive wolf-like creature. Despite being shot multiple times at close range, the creature remained unscathed and eventually vanished into the woods. This was only the beginning. Over the following months, the family witnessed countless inexplicable events. UFOs hovered over their property, cattle were found mutilated with surgical precision, and crop circles appeared overnight. One of the most disturbing phenomena was the appearance of portals, glowing orbs that seemed to open windows to other dimensions. Through these portals, the Gormans saw unimaginable creatures and landscapes, further fueling their fear and confusion. In 1996, the Gorman family's plight attracted the attention of Robert Bigelow, a billionaire with a keen interest in the paranormal. Bigelow purchased the ranch and sent a team of scientists from the National Institute for Discovery Science, NIDS, to investigate. The NIDS team set up extensive monitoring equipment and conducted numerous experiments, hoping to capture evidence of the paranormal activity. They too experienced the strange phenomena firsthand, including bizarre electromagnetic disturbances and encounters with unknown entities. Despite their efforts, the NIDS team was unable to definitively explain the phenomena. The activity seemed to defy the laws of physics, leaving the scientists baffled and intrigued. Over the years, numerous theories have been proposed to explain the mysteries of Skinwalker Ranch. Some believe the ranch is a hotspot for extraterrestrial activity, while others suggest it may be a gateway to other dimensions. Another theory posits that the land itself is cursed, with the Skinwalkers exacting their revenge on anyone who dares to trespass. Each theory offers a tantalizing glimpse into the unknown, but none provide a conclusive answer. In 2016, Skinwalker Ranch was sold to an anonymous buyer who has continued the research into its paranormal phenomena. The ranch remains a focal point for investigators and enthusiasts alike, drawing those who seek to uncover its dark secrets. Despite extensive research and countless investigations, the mysteries of Skinwalker Ranch remain unsolved. The strange lights, the bizarre creatures, and the eerie silence of the land continue to elude explanation, leaving us to wonder what truly lies at the heart of this enigmatic place. Over the years, many have come forward with their own harrowing tales of Skinwalker Ranch. Local residents have reported seeing strange lights in the sky, hearing unexplained noises, and encountering ghostly apparitions. Former ranch workers describe a constant feeling of being watched, as if unseen eyes were always upon them. One worker recounted an experience where he was chased by an invisible force, leaving him terrified and convinced that something malevolent resided on the ranch. Visitors have described being overcome with an overwhelming sense of dread, unable to shake the feeling of impending doom. The paranormal activity at Skinwalker Ranch is not limited to physical manifestations. Many who have spent time on the property have reported experiencing psychological effects, nightmares, hallucinations, and a pervasive sense of fear. Some have even claimed to have been possessed by malevolent spirits, their personalities changing dramatically while on the ranch. Experts suggest that the intense electromagnetic fields and unknown energies present on the ranch may be affecting the human mind, amplifying fear and altering perceptions. This psychological component adds another layer of mystery to the already complex and terrifying legend of Skinwalker Ranch. As technology advances, so do the methods used to investigate Skinwalker Ranch. New techniques in data analysis, drone surveillance, and ground-penetrating radar are being employed to explore the ranch's many secrets. Researchers hope that these tools will finally shed light on the unexplained phenomena and provide answers to the questions that have haunted so many for decades. However, the legend of Skinwalker Ranch is more than just a collection of strange occurrences. It is a testament to the enduring power of the unknown, a reminder that there are still mysteries in this world that elude our understanding. The story of Skinwalker Ranch is a chilling journey into the unknown, a place where reality and the supernatural collide. What do you believe lies behind the mysteries of this haunted land? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. We uncover the terrifying legend of the Bell Witch, a malevolent spirit that haunted a family in early 19th century Tennessee. Join us as we explore the sinister events that plagued the Bell family and the lingering questions that remain to this day. In 1804, John Bell and his family moved to the quiet town of Adams, Tennessee, seeking a new start on a prosperous farm. Little did they know that their new home would become the site of one of America's most infamous hauntings. Life on the Bell farm was peaceful at first. The family was well respected in the community, and their farm thrived. But soon, strange occurrences began to shatter their tranquility. The haunting began with unexplained noises, scratching sounds, knocking on the walls, and eerie whispers that seemed to come from nowhere. The Bell children were terrified, and John Bell himself began to experience strange physical ailments. John Bell started to suffer from strange ailments, including a swelling of the throat and a series of violent seizures. The family was at a loss, unable to explain the source of these afflictions. As the disturbances grew more frequent and violent, the entity responsible began to reveal itself. Known as the Bell Witch, the spirit was said to be that of Kate Batts, a neighbor with whom John Bell had a land dispute. The witch's torment became relentless, targeting the entire Bell family. The Bell Witch exhibited incredible power, moving objects, pulling hair, and even speaking to the family. She seemed particularly focused on John Bell and his daughter, Betsy, whom she tormented without mercy. News of the haunting spread, and neighbors and community members came to witness the strange events for themselves. Many reported hearing the witch's voice and experiencing unexplainable phenomena, further validating the Bell family's plight. The witch seemed to thrive on the attention, growing bolder and more aggressive as more people became involved. Despite their best efforts, the Bell family could find no escape from the relentless torment. The witch's vendetta against John Bell culminated in his untimely death in 1820. On his deathbed, John Bell was said to have been taunted by the witch, who claimed responsibility for his demise. After his death, a vial of strange liquid was found near his body, believed to be poison administered by the witch. John Bell's death marked a turning point in the haunting. The witch's activity began to subside, but her presence never fully disappeared. The Bell family continued to experience strange phenomena, though less frequently and with less intensity. The legend of the Bell Witch endures to this day, with many believing that the spirit still haunts the land. The Bell Witch Cave, located on the former Bell property, is a popular site for paranormal investigators and thrill seekers, many of whom claim to have experienced the witch's presence. The story of the Bell Witch has become a fixture of American folklore, inspiring books, films, and countless theories about the true nature of the haunting. Was it a vengeful spirit, a case of mass hysteria, or something else entirely? The answers remain elusive, but the legend continues to captivate and terrify those who hear it. The tale of the Bell Witch is a haunting reminder of the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding. What do you believe caused the terrifying events that plagued the Bell family? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. We explore one of Germany's most notorious unsolved cases, the Hinterkaifeck murders. Join us as we unravel the details of this brutal crime and the eerie events that followed. Hinterkaifeck was a remote farm located in the Bavarian region of Germany. In March 1922, the farm was home to 6 people: Andreas Gruber, his wife Cecilia, their daughter Victoria, her children, and a maid named Maria Baumgartner. The farm was isolated, surrounded by dense forest, which made it an ideal setting for both the family and potential intruders. Despite its peaceful appearance, dark events were about to unfold. In the weeks leading up to the murders, the Gruber family experienced a series of unsettling events. Andreas Gruber reported hearing footsteps in the attic and discovered unfamiliar footprints leading from the forest to the farmhouse. He also found a strange newspaper that he did not recognize. Despite their growing unease, the Grubers dismissed these incidents as minor and continued with their daily lives. However, the presence of an unknown intruder would soon lead to a horrific crime. On the night of March 31st, 1922, the Gruber family and their maid were brutally murdered. The perpetrators used a pickaxe to bludgeon the victims, killing them in their sleep. The murders were carried out with chilling efficiency, and the crime scene revealed a disturbing level of violence. The bodies were found in their beds, and the gruesome nature of the crime shocked the entire country. The murderer, or murderers, had stayed at the farm for several days after the killings, using the farmhouse as their base of operations. The investigation into the Hinterkaifeck murders was extensive, but ultimately fruitless. The police interviewed numerous suspects, including neighbors, local townspeople, and even family members. Despite their efforts, no concrete evidence was found to identify the killer. The investigation faced numerous challenges, including the lack of forensic technology and the isolated nature of the crime scene. Despite their best efforts, the authorities could not uncover the truth behind the murders. Over the years, several theories have emerged to explain the Hinterkaifeck murders. Some speculate that the crime was the result of a family dispute or personal vendetta. Others believe that local criminals may have been involved or that the murders were connected to occult practices. One theory suggests that a local handyman who had previously worked on the farm may have been involved. Another theory posits that the murders were committed by a wandering vagrant or a group of criminals seeking refuge. The Hinterkaifeck farm was abandoned after the murders, and it has since become a symbol of the macabre and mysterious. The farmhouse remained empty for years, and the site became the focus of ghost stories and urban legends. Many who have visited the site report feeling a sense of unease and dread. Some claim to have experienced supernatural phenomena, including ghostly apparitions and unexplained noises. The farm's haunting silence has only added to the chilling legacy of the murders. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of Germany's most infamous unsolved cases. Despite numerous investigations and ongoing interest from both amateur sleuths and professional investigators, the identity of the killer remains unknown. New forensic techniques and technologies have been employed to revisit the case, but they have yet to yield any new leads. The mystery of Hinterkaifeck endures, leaving us to wonder what truly happened on that fateful night. The tale of the Hinterkaifeck murders is a haunting reminder of the darkness that can lie hidden within seemingly ordinary places. What do you believe happened at Hinterkaifeck? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Cosmos World for more chilling true crime stories. Until next time, stay curious and keep the lights on. In a small town, nestled between the mountains and a seemingly endless forest, there stands a house with a dark and terrifying history. This is the story of a place where nightmares come to life, where the line between the living and the dead blurs, and where those who enter often don't come out. Welcome to the house at the edge of the forest. Welcome to Cosmos World, where the shadows whisper and the unknown lurks around every corner. Brace yourself for a journey into the darkest mysteries. Built in the early 1900s by the Evans family, the house was once a grand and beautiful home. Situated at the edge of a vast forest, it was meant to be a peaceful retreat from the bustle of city life. But peace was the last thing the Evans family found. Shortly after moving in, the Evans family began experiencing strange occurrences. Doors would slam shut on their own, cold spots would appear in the warmest rooms, and at night, they would hear whispers coming from the walls. As the weeks passed, the disturbances grew more intense. The youngest daughter, Emily, began sleepwalking, always ending up at the edge of the forest, staring into the darkness. One night, she vanished without a trace. The search for Emily went on for days, but she was never found. Her disappearance marked the beginning of a series of tragedies. The father, overcome with guilt, took his own life. The mother was found dead in the house a week later, her face frozen in a mask of terror. The only surviving member of the family, the eldest son, left town and was never seen again. After the Evans family tragedy, the house was abandoned. Locals claimed it was cursed, and no one dared to enter. Over the years, the forest began to reclaim the land, and the house was forgotten. Until now. In the present day, the house was purchased by a young couple, Sarah and Mark, looking for a fresh start away from the city. They knew the house had a history, but they didn't believe in ghosts. To them, it was just a bargain, a place to call their own. But from the moment they stepped inside, they could feel that something was wrong. The air was heavy, the rooms were cold, and there was an unsettling sense of being watched. That first night, the disturbances began. It started with small things. Footsteps in the hallway when no one was there, doors creaking open on their own. Mark dismissed it as the house settling, But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. In the middle of the night, Sarah was awoken by the same whispers that had haunted the Evans family all those years ago. They seemed to come from the walls, the floor, and even the air itself. She followed the sound, leading her to the basement. In the basement, Sarah discovered something the real estate agent hadn't mentioned: a door hidden behind a stack of old boxes. It was locked, but the key was in the lock, as if waiting for her to find it. The room beyond was small and dark, the walls covered in strange symbols that Sarah didn't recognize. In the corner stood an old, dusty mirror, its surface covered with a thick layer of grime. But as she wiped it clean, she saw something that made her blood run cold. In the mirror, Sarah saw her reflection, but it was wrong, twisted and distorted. Behind her, shadows moved, taking shape into figures that shouldn't have been there. She screamed and ran upstairs, but the damage was done. When Mark found her, she was in a state of shock, unable to speak. The next morning, she tried to tell him what she had seen, but the words wouldn't come. The house had taken hold of her, and the horrors were just beginning. As the days passed, the haunting escalated. The house became a living nightmare, with objects flying across rooms, apparitions appearing in the windows, and the whispers growing louder and more insistent. Mark tried to rationalize the events, blaming it on stress and exhaustion, but Sarah knew the truth. The house was alive, and it wanted them. The house began to take control of Sarah, whispering to her constantly, telling her things she didn't want to hear. She became withdrawn, her eyes hollow, and her movements robotic. Mark watched in horror as the woman he loved slipped away. One night, Mark found Sarah standing in front of the mirror again, but this time it was different. Her reflection was no longer hers. It was something else, something dark and twisted, and it was smiling. Desperate to save her, Mark tried to drag Sarah out of the house, but the house wouldn't let them go. The walls seemed to close in, the shadows came to life, and the whispers turned into screams. The house began to collapse, the very structure twisting and groaning as if in pain. The forest outside seemed to come alive, the trees reaching out as if trying to consume them. Mark knew they had to escape, but Sarah was no longer herself. In a desperate act, Mark grabbed the mirror and smashed it, hoping to break the house's hold on Sarah. The house screamed in agony, the walls shaking, and the whispers turning into a deafening roar. As the house collapsed around them, Mark managed to drag Sarah outside, just as the forest seemed to stop in its tracks. They watched in horror as the house was swallowed by the earth, leaving nothing but a crater where it once stood. Mark and Sarah left the town, vowing never to return. But the house, or whatever evil resided within it, was not done with them. Even now, they can still hear the whispers, calling them back to the edge of the forest, where nightmares become reality. Deep in the heart of the whispering woods lies a darkness that few have dared to explore. For centuries, locals have whispered of the strange occurrences and the chilling disappearances that have plagued the area. This is the story of one family's encounter with the malevolent force that lurks within the woods. The Thompsons were looking for a fresh start. After years of city life, they decided to move to the countryside, where they could reconnect with nature and each other. The Whispering Woods seemed like the perfect escape, but they had no idea of the horrors that awaited them. At first, the cabin seemed like a dream come true, but as night fell, the woods began to reveal their true nature. It started with the whispers. At first, they were faint, almost imperceptible, like the wind rustling through the leaves. But Emily knew something was off. The whispers seemed to be calling her name. Curiosity turned to fear as the whispers grew louder, more distinct. They were coming from the woods, beckoning her to come closer. Drawn by an unseen force, Emily found herself outside, walking toward the trees. The whispers surrounded her, filling her mind with thoughts that weren't her own. And then she saw it, a shadowy figure, barely visible in the darkness, watching her from the trees. She couldn't move, couldn't scream. The whispers grew louder, drowning out everything else until suddenly, silence. Her parents found her at the edge of the woods, standing motionless, her eyes wide with terror. She couldn't remember how she got there or what she had seen, but the fear in her eyes was unmistakable. The whispers were just the beginning. As the days passed, the presence in the woods grew stronger, more aggressive. The Thompsons tried to ignore it, but the signs were everywhere. Doors slamming shut, the objects moving on their own, and an overwhelming sense of dread that hung over the cabin like a dark cloud. Jake, the youngest, seemed particularly affected. He would often stand at the edge of the woods, staring into the trees, as if something was calling to him. Emily, too, began to change. She became withdrawn, her once bright personality dimming as the whispers invaded her mind. She would often speak in a low voice, repeating words that made no sense, words that she claimed were being whispered to her by the forest people. Desperate for help, the parents reached out to the local townspeople, but their pleas were met with silence. The locals knew better than to get involved with the whispering woods. The final night in the cabin was one of terror. The whispers were louder than ever, filling the house with a cacophony of voices. The air was thick with fear, and the Thompsons knew they had to leave. But the forest wouldn't let them go. The doors and windows were sealed shut, the very walls of the cabin closing in on them. The whispers turned to screams, the voices demanding a sacrifice. In a trance, Emily walked toward the door, her movements controlled by the unseen force. Her parents tried to stop her, but they were powerless, held back by the same malevolent entity that had haunted them from the start. As the door burst open, the shadowy figure from the woods appeared, reaching out for Emily. But just as it touched her, a blinding light filled the room, and the figure let out a blood-curdling scream. When the light faded, the whispers were gone. The family found themselves outside the cabin, the storm clouds clearing. But the cabin was in ruins, as if it had been abandoned for decades. The woods were silent, the presence gone, but the scars remained. The Thompsons left the Whispering Woods that night, vowing never to speak of what had happened. But the forest is still there, waiting, whispering, calling out to those who dare to listen. Tucked away in the remote wilderness of Eastern Europe lies a village that time forgot. No maps show its location, and no roads lead to its gates, except one, a path that few have dared to tread. This is the story of a group of documentary filmmakers who went in search of the lost village of Velkov, only to discover that some places are forgotten for a reason. Velkov was once a thriving community, but it vanished mysteriously in the late 1800s. Rumors of curses, strange rituals, and an ancient evil have surrounded the village ever since. Driven by curiosity and a thirst for truth, the filmmakers set out to uncover what really happened. Equipped with the latest technology and a burning desire to make a name for themselves, they believed they were prepared for anything. But the village had other plans. As they neared the village, the forest grew darker, the air thicker with an unnatural stillness. Birds stopped singing, and the only sound was the crunch of gravel under the tires. The GPS signal faded, and the road seemed to stretch endlessly into the gloom. At last, they reached Velkov. The village was exactly as the old texts described: crumbling houses, overgrown streets, and an eerie silence that weighed on their minds. But something was off. The village felt alive, as if it had been waiting for them. The deeper they ventured into Velkov, the more unsettling it became. The houses were untouched by time, as if the villagers had simply vanished one day, leaving everything behind. But who or what could have caused such a thing? It wasn't long before they discovered the symbols, carved into walls, doors, even trees, the marks of an ancient, forgotten religion, one that worshipped dark forces long banished from history. As night fell, the village seemed to close in around them. The fog thickened, and the air grew cold. But it wasn't just the weather. It was as if the village itself was coming alive, awakening from a long slumber. Then came the whispers. Faint at first, like the rustling of leaves, but soon they grew louder, more insistent. Voices speaking in a language none of them understood, beckoning them deeper into the village. The shadows seemed to move of their own accord, and the air was thick with a sense of impending doom. And then they began to disappear. First, David went to investigate a strange noise and never came back. Then Mike heard footsteps behind him. But when he turned, there was nothing there. Nothing but darkness. Panic set in as Anna and Clara realized they were alone, trapped in a village that was slowly consuming them. In their search for their friends, they found only abandoned gear and more symbols, symbols that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. The whispers grew louder, turning into screams, and the shadows pressed in, suffocating them with fear. In the heart of the village, they found the source of the evil, a stone altar, ancient and stained with blood. The villagers hadn't just vanished, they had been sacrificed, their souls consumed by the dark forces they once worshipped. The whispers rose to a deafening pitch, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. The fog turned solid, trapping them in place as the shadows closed in, their forms becoming more defined. Twisted, grotesque figures of the long-dead villagers, their eyes glowing with a malevolent light. In a final act of desperation, Clara sacrificed herself, pushing Anna out of the fog's grasp. Anna ran, the village closing in around her, the whispers screaming in her ears. She found the road, barely making it back to the car. But as she drove away, the village began to fade, disappearing into the fog as if it had never been there. But Velkov wasn't done with her. As she drove through the endless forest, the whispers fell silent. But when she glanced in the rearview mirror, the village was still there, closer, impossibly close, as if it was following her. Velkov had chosen her, and there would be no escape. For over a century, the North Point Lighthouse has guided ships safely to shore, its light cutting through the darkest nights and fiercest storms. But the lighthouse holds a dark secret, one that has been buried beneath the waves of time. This is the story of the final lighthouse keeper, a man who discovered that some lights are meant to remain extinguished. In the summer of 1953, Edward Ramsey, a former naval officer, took on the role of lighthouse keeper at North Point. The previous keeper had disappeared without a trace, leaving the lighthouse abandoned for months. Ramsey, seeking solitude and a fresh start, was eager to take on the challenge. The journey to the lighthouse was treacherous, but Ramsey was determined. Little did he know the true danger lay not in the sea, but in the very walls of the lighthouse itself. Ramsey's first night at the lighthouse was uneventful, though the isolation weighed heavily on him. The wind howled through the cracks in the walls, and the sea roared outside, but inside, all was quiet. Too quiet. But as midnight approached, The light went out, without warning, without reason. Ramsey awoke to a cold darkness, the air thick with an unsettling stillness. He climbed the stairs to the beacon, only to find it in perfect working order. Yet it refused to stay lit. Over the next few days, Ramsey began to notice odd occurrences. The light flickering at odd intervals, objects moving on their own, and shadows that seemed to shift and sway in the corners of his vision. And then came the voices. Faint at first, like the distant echo of a ship's crew, but they grew louder each night, whispering words Ramsey could not understand. They seemed to come from the walls, from the very stones of the lighthouse, and no matter where he went, the voices followed. Determined to uncover the truth, Ramsey scoured the lighthouse from top to bottom. It was during one of these searches that he found a hidden door, a trapdoor in the floor that led to a dark, narrow staircase descending into the depths of the cliff. With each step, the air grew colder, the darkness more oppressive. At the bottom, Ramsey found a small, forgotten room carved into the rock itself. Inside were relics of the past, old charts, rusted tools, and a large, ancient chest. The chest contained the journals of past lighthouse keepers, each one detailing strange occurrences similar to those Ramsey was experiencing. But the final entry was different, a warning not to open the small ornate box that lay within the chest, bound by chains. But curiosity got the better of Ramsey. Ignoring the warnings, he opened the box, unleashing a dark force that had been sealed away for centuries. The mist that poured from the box was not of this world. It was cold, malevolent, and alive. From that moment on, the lighthouse was no longer a sanctuary. The light refused to stay lit, no matter how many times Ramsey repaired it. The voices grew louder, more insistent, and the shadows, those shadows that had once lurked in the corners, now moved with purpose, as if they were watching him, waiting. Ramsey's logbook entries became increasingly erratic, filled with desperate pleas for help and incoherent ramblings about figures in the fog. He was no longer alone. The spirits of the past keepers, or perhaps something far worse, had returned to claim him. In the final days, Ramsey could no longer distinguish between reality and nightmare. The shadows closed in, and the voices reached a fever pitch. He knew he had to confront the darkness he had unleashed, but the power of the lighthouse was too strong. In a last-ditch effort, Ramsey tried to relight the beacon, hoping to banish the darkness once and for all. But the light flickered and died, and the shadows closed in, consuming him entirely. His final scream echoed through the night, carried away by the wind, as the lighthouse fell silent once more. In the days that followed, the lighthouse fell into darkness. The light never shone again, and the few who dared to approach the cliffs spoke of a cold, malevolent presence that seemed to watch them from the shadows. The legend of North Point grew, a warning to all who ventured too close, and the secret of the lighthouse keeper's fate was buried beneath the waves, where it would remain until someone else was foolish enough to uncover it. Nestled in the Ozark Mountains, the Crescent Hotel has been called the most haunted hotel in America. With a history of death, deception, and despair, it is no surprise that this grand old building is home to countless spirits. But none are as notorious or as terrifying as the ghost that resides in room 308. The Crescent Hotel was built in 1886 as a luxury resort for the rich and famous, offering a haven of relaxation and opulence in the heart of the Ozark Mountains. Designed with the highest standards of the time, it was intended to be the most luxurious hotel west of the Mississippi, complete with electric lighting, modern plumbing, and grand ballrooms. The Crescent was a place where the elite could escape the stress of their lives, with lavish rooms, grand ballrooms, and sprawling gardens. But beneath its facade of luxury, the hotel was plagued by financial troubles and soon fell into decline. In the 1930s, the Crescent Hotel was reborn as a hospital under the control of Dr. Norman Baker, a self-proclaimed healer who claimed to have a miraculous cure for cancer. But Dr. Baker was no doctor. He was a con man, preying on the desperate and dying. Baker turned the Crescent into a hospital for the terminally ill, luring patients from across the country with promises of a cure. But his treatments were nothing more than a cruel scam, consisting of painful injections of spring water, corn silk, and alcohol, offering false hope to those in their final days. As the death toll rose, the hotel became a place of sorrow and torment. Many patients died within the walls of the Crescent, their last moments filled with pen and fear. The despair left behind by these souls permeated the building, and it wasn't long before the first reports of hauntings began. After Baker's arrest and the closure of the hospital, the Crescent Hotel fell into disrepair. For years, the building stood abandoned, a dark relic of its past. Those who dared to enter spoke of feeling watched, hearing voices, and seeing ghostly apparitions. But it was in room 308 where the most terrifying encounters occurred. Among the many spirits said to haunt the Crescent Hotel, none is more feared than Michael, a young Irish stonemason who worked on the hotel's construction in 1886. Michael was known for his charm and good nature, a young man full of life and dreams. But Michael's life was tragically cut short when he lost his footing and fell to his death while working on the hotel's construction. His body was found at the base of what would later become room 308, a room that would forever be associated with his spirit. Not long after the hotel opened, guests who stayed in room 308 began to report strange occurrences. Some spoke of waking up to the sensation of someone sitting on the edge of their bed, while others felt an icy cold presence in the room, despite the warmth of the hotel. Some guests even claimed to see the ghostly figure of a man standing in the corner of the room, watching them as they slept. The figure would often approach the bed before disappearing, leaving the guests in a state of terror. As the Crescent Hotel was transformed into a hospital in the 1930s, the haunting in room 308 grew stronger. Michael's spirit, disturbed by the suffering and death surrounding him, became increasingly active and malevolent. Hospital staff and patients reported terrifying encounters in room 308. Cold hands reaching out from the darkness, the feeling of being watched by unseen eyes, and the sound of footsteps echoing through the empty room. One patient, who spoke of a man in the room watching him, died suddenly, leaving behind an air of fear and dread. Over the years, room 308 has drawn the attention of paranormal investigators, each hoping to capture evidence of the ghostly presence that haunts the room. Armed with the latest technology, they've ventured into the room where so many have felt the touch of the unseen. Their efforts have yielded chilling results: sudden spikes in electromagnetic fields, unexplained cold spots, and disembodied voices captured on tape. One investigator reported feeling an intense pressure on his chest, as if something was trying to push him out of the room. Guests who have stayed in room 308 often leave with stories of their own. Tales of strange knocking on the walls, beds that shake violently in the night, and an icy breeze that moves through the room even when the windows are closed. One guest awoke in the dead of night to see the figure of a man standing at the foot of her bed. She described him as tall and thin, with piercing eyes that seemed to bore into her soul. As she screamed, the figure slowly faded away, leaving her trembling with fear. Today, the Crescent Hotel embraces its haunted history, offering ghost tours and inviting guests to stay in its most haunted rooms. But the staff still issue warnings to those who dare to stay in room 308. Enter at your own risk, for the ghost of Michael still walks these halls. In February 1978, 5 young men from Yuba City, California, set out on a road trip to attend a basketball game. What should have been a fun night out turned into one of the most baffling and terrifying mysteries in American history. This is the true story of the Yuba County 5, a tale of inexplicable disappearance, fear, and tragedy. Welcome to Cosmos World, where the shadows come alive and the unknown lurks in every corner. Prepare yourself for tales that chill the bone and stories that haunt your dreams. Dare to uncover the mysteries that refuse to stay buried. Subscribe if you're ready to explore the darkest corners of the human mind and beyond. The Yuba County 5 were lifelong friends: Jack Madruga, Ted Weiher, Bill Sterling, Jack Hewitt, and Gary Mathias. They were all in their 20s and early 30s, and while they were described as mentally disabled or with psychiatric conditions, they were capable, kind-hearted, and loved by their families and community. On February 24th, 1978, the 5 friends piled into Jack's car, excited for a night out. They were heading to a college basketball game in Chico, about 50 miles away. They planned to return home that night, as they had their own basketball game the next morning. But none of them would make it back. After the game, the group stopped at a convenience store to pick up snacks and drinks for the ride home. It was a normal night. Nothing seemed amiss. But that was the last time anyone saw the Yuba County 5. They should have headed directly home, but for reasons no one can explain, they ended up driving nearly 70 miles east, deep into the rugged terrain of the Plumas National Forest, a detour that made no sense. Days later, the search began. The police and volunteers scoured the area, but it wasn't until February 28th that they found the first clue: their car, abandoned on a remote mountain road, far from any paved routes. The car was stuck in the snow, but it was in working order with enough fuel to drive back to safety. There was no sign of the men. Inside the car, they found neatly folded maps, snacks, and a few belongings, but no signs of a struggle. It was as if the men had simply stepped out and vanished into thin air. As winter turned to spring, the snow began to melt, revealing the secrets hidden beneath. The search resumed, and on June 4th, nearly 4 months after the disappearance, a group of motorcyclists stumbled upon an abandoned U.S. Forest Service trailer, nearly 20 miles from where the car had been found. Inside the trailer, they found the emaciated body of Ted Weiher. Wrapped in several blankets, he had survived for weeks, possibly over a month, but died of starvation and exposure, despite there being a stocked pantry within the trailer. There was no sign of the others, but the discovery only deepened the mystery. Further searching revealed the bodies of Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling, just a few miles from the car, and the remains of Jack Hewitt near a stream. They had all succumbed to the elements, yet their deaths only raised more questions. Why had they left the car? Why hadn't they sought shelter in the trailer earlier? The 5th man, Gary Mathias, was never found. Despite extensive searches, his body, or any trace of him, was never recovered. Was he the last one alive? Did he wander off, lost and disoriented, or did he meet a different, more sinister fate? Over the years, countless theories have been proposed to explain the tragedy. Some believe they got lost after taking a wrong turn, while others think they may have been fleeing from something or someone in the forest. Gary Mathias, who suffered from schizophrenia, might have had a psychotic break, leading the group into danger. But none of these theories fully explain what happened that night. Decades later, the disappearance of the Yuba County Five remains one of the most chilling and perplexing mysteries in American history. Their families are left with more questions than answers, and the truth of what happened on that cold February night may never be known. The Sierra Nevada remains as unforgiving as ever, keeping its secrets hidden beneath the snow and trees. And the story of the Yuba County Five serves as a haunting reminder that some mysteries are never meant to be solved. For over a century, guests have checked into the luxurious Mountain View Hotel, but not all of them have checked out. Among the rooms in this grand establishment, one holds a particularly dark secret. Room 217, where the line between the living and the dead is blurred. Opened in 1909, the Mountain View Hotel quickly became a retreat for the wealthy and famous. Built by a railroad tycoon, the hotel offered opulence in the heart of nature. But what the guests didn't know was that the land on which the hotel was built had a history of its own, a dark and violent past that would soon come to light. It didn't take long for strange occurrences to begin. One summer evening in 1911, a maid entered room 217 to prepare it for the night. But what she encountered would mark the beginning of the hotel's dark reputation. As she lit the gas lamps, an explosion ripped through the room, blasting the walls apart. Miraculously, the maid survived, but she would never be the same. She spoke of an icy presence that held her down, protecting her from the worst of the blast. But others believed it was something far more sinister. After the explosion, guests who stayed in room 217 reported unusual occurrences. Furniture moved on its own, whispers filled the air, and cold spots would appear even in the heat of summer. The hotel's management dismissed these claims as mere imagination, but the stories persisted. The most chilling reports came from those who saw a woman in old-fashioned clothing standing at the foot of their bed. Described as a figure dressed in a Victorian gown, her presence was always accompanied by a sense of overwhelming sorrow. She would disappear as quickly as she appeared, leaving guests terrified and unable to sleep. In the 1990s, a team of paranormal investigators spent the night in room 217, hoping to capture evidence of the haunting. What they recorded sent chills down their spines, a voice warning them to leave, and the image of a ghostly figure caught in a mirror. The evidence was undeniable. Something, or someone, still lingered in that room. In recent years, many guests have asked to stay in room 217, drawn by its eerie reputation. One such couple, unaware of the room's history, checked in for what they thought would be a romantic getaway. But as the night wore on, they soon realized they were not alone. In the dead of night, they awoke to see her, the lady in white, standing at the foot of their bed. Her presence was undeniable, her sorrow palpable. The couple, frozen in fear, could only watch as she slowly faded into the wall, leaving behind a chilling silence. The next morning, the couple left the hotel without a word, their faces pale and drawn. Whatever they had witnessed in room 217, it was enough to ensure they would never return. And so, the legend of room 217 continues, as does the haunting of those who dare to stay. In the heart of a forgotten industrial district stands the old Harris factory. Once a thriving textile mill, it now lies abandoned, its machines silent, its workers long gone. But at night, when the world is asleep, the factory comes alive with the echoes of the past, and something far more sinister. Welcome to Cosmos World. Dive into spine-chilling scary stories and real-life mysteries that will haunt your dreams. From paranormal encounters to unsolved crimes, our weekly uploads are crafted to keep you on the edge of your seat. Subscribe for more thrilling tales and join our community of horror enthusiasts. Tom was new to town, and the midnight shift at the old Harris factory seemed like easy money. All he had to do was watch over an empty building, a job too good to pass up. But Tom didn't know the history of this place, or the tragedies that had occurred within these walls. As the hours dragged on, strange things began to happen. Flickering lights, shadows where there shouldn't be any, and the feeling that someone, or something, was watching him. The factory was a maze of rusted machines and forgotten memories. As Tom made his rounds, the air grew thick with tension, and the darkness seemed to close in around him. And then in the distance, he heard it, the faint sound of machinery starting up. A machine that had been silent for decades suddenly roared to life, its gears turning as if powered by some unseen force. But what truly chilled Tom to the bone were the footsteps, soft, deliberate, and coming closer. Tom wasn't alone. The spirits of the workers who had once toiled in the factory were still there, trapped by the terrible accident that had claimed their lives. They were restless, angry, and desperate to be heard. The whispers grew louder, the temperature dropped, and the past began to bleed into the present. The monitors showed glimpses of what had happened on that fateful day. The fire, the panic, the workers trapped inside with no escape. The fire that consumed the old Harris factory was no accident. Tom discovered that it was caused by negligence, a decision by the factory owner to ignore safety concerns in order to meet a production deadline. The workers had no warning, no chance to escape. And it wasn't just an ordinary fire. It was an inferno, fueled by chemicals stored improperly, turning the factory into a death trap. 47 men and women lost their lives that day. Their families were left with nothing but unanswered questions and a deep sense of injustice. Tom realized that the spirits haunting the factory were those of the workers, trapped in the place where they met their tragic end. As the truth of the factory's past came to light, the spirits grew more agitated. They didn't just want to be acknowledged, they wanted revenge. The factory itself seemed to turn against Tom, as if it were alive, feeding on his fear. Isolation and fear took their toll on Tom's mind. He could no longer distinguish between reality and the nightmares that plagued him. The factory had him in its grip, and it wasn't going to let go. There was no escape. The factory had become a prison, and Tom its newest inmate. The spirits of the workers were determined to make him suffer just as they had suffered. In the depths of the factory, Tom came face to face with the heart of the nightmare. This was where the fire had started, where the workers had been trapped with no way out. And in the center of the room, he saw them, spectral figures, their bodies charred, their eyes filled with rage. The spirits of the dead workers surrounded him, their anger palpable, their pain unbearable. They wanted justice, and they would not rest until they had taken it. In that moment, Tom understood the truth. The factory was not just haunted, it was cursed, and now it would claim him, just as it had claimed so many before. When the day shift arrived, they found the factory empty, as if nothing had happened. But Tom was gone, vanished without a trace. The old Harris factory had claimed another soul, and its dark secrets remained buried in the shadows, waiting for the next unfortunate victim.